It is happening right now, live and direct from COACHMC studio. Welcome, creative community. So I give you a couple of seconds to join the chat. I can be more pumped about today's show because we're just coming back from Los Angeles, from the city of angels. We've been in California, we've been in Florida, we traveled a bit through the US. We've gathered new information, new stimulus, and it is so funny because in today's show at the CoachMC studio, this is, by the way, the place where we'll help you to shape unique behavior deliveries and where we'll help you to get recognized in the audition room. And this is one of the reasons we're doing shows like that, to give you creators, artists, performers, entertainers, and actors the possibility to look a bit over the horizon, to gather new tools, to put some new instruments in your toolbox, to kind of reset your mind frame and to get a new perception about the craft, about acting, about entertainment industry, and to use those tools and those instruments to propel your artistic behavior even further, to reach further goals, to gain more momentum, and to develop that beautiful critical mass inside of yourself. That is the self-esteem that comes from the culture of work, of making great performances a habit to you as a performer, as an entertainer, as an actor, and by that gaining substantial information that will help you to root yourself in this very crazy ambience and this very crazy, wonderful world of entertainment industry that, of course, sometimes can be confusing, distracting, unpredictable, but has its beauty in its exploration and its improvisation, and also to find solutions for yourself as creators, as artists, as performers that might be thought a little bit at the edge of the box, and not only the conventional material that helps to kind of, propel the mass, but to look for the details, for the niche, for the beauty and the little things that will help you to propel your ambition of as an artist and to show what you got inside of yourself and to make that in the most extraordinary and remarkable way. That's what we stand for. So welcome to tonight's show. It's a pleasure to have you guys here. Hopefully we're going to start the chat session also soon. And like I said, I couldn't be more pumped because in a way, this is also kind of a show that closes a circle with a development that started many, many years ago. Because funny enough, today we're also doing something completely new. It's an acting breakdown. It's not just a live chat and talking about the craft in itself, or some instruments, or some mindset tools, or some strategies to develop more growth, to get more rooted and solidified with your business endeavors, and also to realize what your potential is. No, this is actually an acting breakdown of performances from a series, from a product that is on air right now. It's a it's a brand new, it's a very fresh and hot product. And based on what we saw during this mini-series we're going to talk about in this acting breakdown, we feel like the urge of communicating that to the creative community out there, because there's so many things that we can get from this magnificent mini-series on Hulu that we can use also to gain perspective and to be reassured of the fact that certain elements, certain instruments, certain things that are inherent to acting, to performing, to arts will never disappear. They will always be part of the creative endeavor. There will be always fundamental cornerstones of building a magnificent performance architecture, like a performing architecture that helps you to understand yourself and the craft. And certain things will never change. And this show proves that. So Rosita, welcome to the show tonight. Thank you so much for joining once again. We took a little break. We had a beautiful talks on acting in Miami Beach with my man Tony Delerme, and that was a blast because it was nice to discover and explore other talents across the ocean. And it's so great to see you guys nonetheless, that we're now live and direct again from our studio facility here. So Rosita, hi coach, I'm glad you're back. I followed you on Instagram during your trip. Yeah, thank you so much. It was a magnificent, a great trip. I didn't watch the series yet, but I'm curious of your thoughts. Yeah, I will try to not spoiler anything, because it's not about spoilering some details or some certain aspects of the show. I can give you, of course, like a short introduction what the show is about. That will help tremendously. But then we can go into what's really important to me, what we can get out of the show, out of this show, out of this miniseries, and what we can use for our own endeavors. And what I think is also important to communicate, like, besides or not, whether or not you can use this, I think it is important to communicate once in a while when products are made in an extraordinary good manner. When certain shows, certain movies, or certain series, or even like a theater piece is made in such a way that are made in such a great way that it really kind of inspires people, then it's important, I think, to communicate that and to share that, so the audience gets pointed into the direction of quality and not of quantity. So the funny thing is how this started, before we are getting down into the nitty gritty of what this live chat is all about. I want to kind of rewind the tape just for a second, because I think it's kind of a fascinating backdrop that helps also enhance the importance of tonight's appointment. So a couple of years ago, before the crisis hit, I've been to LA, and I watched a movie called I, Tonya, directed by Craig Gillespie, and starring, of course, the unforgettable and very amazing Margaret Robbie. And in this movie, she was absolutely brilliant, like a Polaris. But there was another actor in the show who, like most of the actors in this movie, were stunning. But there was one actor that personally impressed me a lot, and that was Sebastian Stan. And at that time, I wasn't even realizing, even though I'm a huge comic fan, that he was also Bucky Barnes, right, in the Marvel franchise and the Winter Soldier and so on and so forth. I just watched this very well-made movie, and I was blown away by the performance of Margaret, but also by the performance of Sebastian Stan. And I thought that this actor is just tremendous with his craft and very believable. He was portraying a real character, a real human being, a real life person with background and history. And even though, of course, the events were a bit oversketched and a bit, of course, contorted for movie purposes, nonetheless, he had to be like very truthful to a real person and to the accounts that were registered because of what happened. The movie was shot. So it's a very fascinating and great movie. Just by all means, check it out. And it's also based on a true story, like this miniseries. And so Sebastian Stan kind of caught my attention because I thought that he had a very profound way of balancing out the humor of slight oversketching, caricature-like moments, but then back again, very profound and deep, very sensitive moments for the character as well. So his role was multifaceted and very fascinating to watch and very believable. And back then I thought that this was already like a real masterpiece of a performance, because it kind of contained many colors, temperatures, and a very, very high plateau, a very high level of consistent quality performance throughout the whole movie. And now I was back in LA on my beautiful trip, where I also hit the movie theaters, and I kind of watched a few shows, and I discovered Pam and Tommy, the show that we're going to talk about. And again, Sebastian Stan performed in an incredible way. And I have to think about the great actors today, like that we can see at the movies. And of course, I don't want to put any disrespect to all the beautiful creative minds out there that are not as known as Sebastian Stan right now. There are many magnificent actors playing on the countryside and metropolis theaters everywhere, all over the globe. But these are the ones that we all know. So compared to the ones that I know, he is among the best, I have to say. He's just amazing. And in this series, he really blews my mind, because he's doing things I've never seen before in such a flawless, natural, and fun and spontaneous way. I really have to recollect what type of performance like hit me so much, like the one that I just saw delivered by Sebastian Stan and Pam and Tommy. So let's get to this, because now we're back again from LA, and again, Sebastian Stan kind of impressed me. So I thought this could be a great moment to really talk about a specific product that is on air. And since it's in the US already receiving a lot of feedback, a lot of noise, a lot of people talking about it, a lot of buzz is kind of building up around that movie, and it's hitting also Europe right now on Disney Plus. I thought this is a great opportunity to talk about a single actor, also the performance of a collective, and what we can learn from that and what we can use for our own purposes, for our own artistic behavior, for our own mindset, whenever we get to create a new character, whenever we get called into the room, whenever we need to perform in front of an audience or the lens. And about a few things that we should never forget as actors and performers, that sometimes when we get caught up in in the function mode, we get caught up in functioning, auditioning and rehearsing, and we go and travel all over these places, and we got jobs, and that's beautiful. But sometimes we forget that this is all creation from ourselves. And what are the fundamentals? What are the cornerstones of these performances? What is important when I, open myself up and transform myself into this other character? And, there is fashion, there is different styles going on. There are some currents going on. And sometimes we get caught up in these, I would say, artistic distractions instead of focusing on what's really essential to our craft. And this series teaches us a lot about what the core of our craft is actually all about. That's our Polaris. That's what we should head for. This is the center of gravity. This is the singularity we can drain the most energy from. And actually, it's also the simplest one. It's kind of mind-boggling. Every time we get down to art, whether that's in the kitchen or in the museum, whether that's in front of a camera or on stage, every time we get down to great moments, we have to acknowledge that most of the times the ingredient for those great impacts were pretty simple, pretty basic, but they were just executed in an extraordinary way. Or like my man Bruce Lee always liked to say, I'm not afraid of the guy who exercises 1,000 different kicks. I'm afraid of the guy who exercises one kick 1,000 times, because then he becomes a master of his profession, and not somebody who's, distracted by different possibilities, but never digs into one so deeply that he really achieves mastery over that. And by doing so, he will never be a complete warrior, a complete performer. So you, once in a while, when it's about creating, performing art, once in a while, we have to stick to something that works, and just to that, and explore that and all its boundaries and fashions, more than try to hop on from one island to the other just to find something to distract the audience and to kind of gain a little bit of momentum, but no essence, no core. This series shows us how we can head to that core, how we can exercise that, and what's so important about that, and what we can learn from these beautiful and magnificent and really extraordinary performances of our fellow colleagues out there. Thank you so much, Hulu. Thank you so much, Robert Siegel, the showrunner, and the one who came up with this beautiful idea. Thanks so much to the crew, to prosthetics, to makeup. Thanks so much to the camera department. It was amazing to see how we as an audience, we've been maneuvered through the life of these two crazy people, these beautiful people, these creators, Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee, in such a flawless executed way that it never felt artificial or overcharged. It was always part of the story. So thanks so much also to all the collaborators of the light department, the camera department. I really mean it from the bottom of my heart, because I enjoy good art. I enjoy good movies so much, and I hope every series, every show, every theater play is going to be a great hit and a very enjoyable performance by all the contributors. But most of the times, unfortunately, that's not the case. whether that's lazy storytelling, whether that's uninspired performances, or that's poor directing. Sometimes things can go sideways. So most of the times, having a critical eye, because having performed for so long and having pretty much the knowledge of how things are done and how they could be done, sometimes that of course spoils the experience. And so being so immersed in a product and being so completely sucked in by a show like this one, like Pam and Tommy on Hulu, and being just a funny watcher and not a critical thinker, that was such a relief. So that's why I want to thank all of the participants of this great experience, and of course the amazing and phenomenal actors. Sebastian Stan as Tommy Lee. I mean, he's just unbelievably good. I mean, it's just amazing, right? It puts me to shame. I flip my head. I take the bow of silence, the vow of silence for a couple of seconds for having me giving me the privilege of being a guest of such a tremendous performance. Just humbles me. Lily James as Pamela Anderson was incredible. Taylor Schilling as Erica, Nick Offerman and Seth Rogen also on the other side as the antagonists, if you want to call them so. Amazing performances. Thank you so much to all of them. And now let's learn from them. Let's not just admire them, iconize them, and all that. That's absolutely legitimate to a certain degree. But if we just do them and put them on a pedestal, we can learn from them. So we need to extract the information before we put them on the pedestal and shine them for the rest of my life, for our lives. And first of all, we as actors, and I think we, as creators, generally when we get to shoot a movie or we get an audition, we think about, the fundamental things. We think about, the relationship and what the other character in the scene is telling us, and what our background as the character is, and where we're coming from, and what our mission is, and what we're trying to achieve, and what our questions are as a character. And there's so much also in terms of technique that you can put in to be realistic, believable, and authentic, and really being in the moment, really listening and reacting to what is going on in the room. And when you watch a show or when you have a scene where the writing works and the characters are clear and full of contrast, and the setup is sharp and has a certain amount of traction and collision and critical mass in terms of conflict, then the story will appear natural and the writing won't interfere with the acting. So in the end, you might think, well, yeah, the story was okay. You won't even notice the story because it works so well. It's like this old proverb, right? If God has done everything right, you won't recognize at all that he's done something, right? So he puts everything into the right place. And even though it's an incredible work, it seems so flawless that it might appear on first glance that nothing has happened at all, right? That things were always this way and they always will continue to be this way. So this is exactly what happens in the miniseries here. The story is so well written that it reminds me almost like in a great audition room. Like you have like a great audition and you're in the room and it just back and forth. It's acting and reacting and just listening, and everything kind of develops naturally and kind of blossoms up spontaneously, and everything seems so organically. But in reality, the story was so strong and the dialogues were, written so well, and the thoughts behind the characters were so sharp and full of contrast that as a great actor, as a good actor, it was easy to interpret them, because if you got good instruments, then you can create a great piece of art. If your instruments are bad or in a bad shape or broken or not really working, then it's hard to create something outstanding. So we have always to remind ourselves that if we have a great story and we recognize a great scene, there is not much effort that we have to put in terms of what we have to create or preconceive, because eventually if two good players are on the pitch and the story is great already, then it will just play out naturally. And that is the beauty about acting. You don't have to intervene that much. And so sometimes when we see a great story, when we spot a great scene, we think, oh no, I can add this, I have to do this, I have to do that. And then we forget the beauty of just being there in the moment. Because let's face it, most of the times we have to deal with mediocre scripts, with hastily written auditions that were just put together because of the time pressure. And that's all legitimate. It's not about judging the process. It's about realizing what the business and the endeavor sometimes looks like, right? We as actors, sometimes we have to kind of fix things and come up with ideas and kind of reshape things, scenes, monologues, kind of replace words, put in something. And it's hard for us to trust completely what the author has written, because most of the times we don't know the author, we haven't met him yet, or sometimes he's dead, or we don't know exactly who he is. So we always want to fill in the gaps. And here I feel I've seen a series where there was no blank spot, no gap, nothing that was necessary to fill in, or at least it looks like that. And that makes it even more amazing. But let's start with the very beginning. What is Pam and Tommy all about? And why am I here doing this acting breakdown? And what are the three fundamental things that we can learn from it? So Pam and Tommy, for the younger audience, or for the audience that maybe isn't so involved into celebrity details and their private lives and everything, deals with the story of Pamela Anderson, that back then in '95 was one of the most famous actresses in the world, and Tommy Lee, the infamous bad boy from Los Angeles, the drummer of Mötley Crüe, a very famous rock band. Back then, I mean, the band has sold over 100 million copies worldwide of their records, and in the '90s they were really they were big. I mean, they had their greatest moments in the '80s, of course, but in the '90s still they were pretty relevant till the grunge era hit and music kind of changed and shifted its focus to Seattle, away from LA. But back then, Tommy Lee and Pam, they were big celebrities enjoying a lot of fans and all over the globe, and also very wealthy people that met and immediately fell in love and married after like 96 hours, and kind of moved into Tommy Lee's house after the wedding in Mexico, and lived there for a couple of years, and lived a very crazy life, and incredible things happened that out of the extraordinary. And one of those things that happened during their stay in the residence of Tommy Lee up there in Malibu was that there was a tape that was stolen that the couple has recorded privately, like a home tape type of footage. And this tape was then leaked. And that was the beginning of many things. And of course, of a very wild and contorted kind of crime story that followed lawsuits and prison stays, and also violent moments in the lives of all the people that were involved in this robbery, and then in the disclosure of the material, the footage, the leaking of the footage to the public, that in a way also opened the imagination of many who started to invest in internet back then, because internet was slowly picking up by middle of the '90s. And what happened with this tape that was stolen and then leaked to the public and sold anonymously online was that I think it kind of started a market. It started the idea of what the market could look like, and what kind of branches could be explored on the internet in terms of business and marketing and distribution and all that. In a way, if you think about video distribution, online marketing, and the business that is behind all types of videos and footage that you can buy online and distribute online. It all started there with Pam and Tommy. And it's a series that revolves around the couple and around what happened with the tape that they recorded for themselves, and what happened in the world, and what the backlash was for the couple, and how the relevant players in the story got affected by it. And everything boils down in these 8 episodes. And again, whether it's the makeup, the prosthetics, the lighting department, the camera department, and the phenomenal performances, as well as the directing from Craig Gillespie initially, but he said really the mood and the vibe for the rest of the show. He shot 3 episodes, and then other directors jumped in, but they kind of continued his thought, his style. So it very felt much like one continuous product. All these people, creators involved in the series, set standards for all their relative crafts. In a way, it was a very handcrafted product with no big CGI or effects, a lot of extras in the background, a lot of great music, a lot of different sets, a lot of costumes. So it felt very real, very rugged, very raw, very beautiful. It catch perfectly the vibe of the 90s. And everybody did a great job in making this experience a very truthful and authentic one. So if we think about what a great story should have, or a great series should have, or a great scene should have, it all comes down, we can always boil it down to a few ingredients. And this show, compared to other shows who miserably failed at that were produced recently as well, I won't give any names, but it's it feels like a very mature product, because it was written by people who knew exactly what they were writing about, putting the right actors into the right place and making them do what they can do best. And it felt also like a very genuine product, because there was so much love involved in the details and the little things, in certain aspects of how it was shot, that you really get the feeling to be part of this world. They recreated a world and sucked us in as the audience, and then we kind of just we just kind of were part of the stream of the current. You couldn't but just go on and watch it, because it was really hard to kind of turn this off, because the world was so vibrant and so authentic that you just want to be, immersed again and again and again. And you see, sometimes as actors, we get so caught up with all these things, like I mentioned before, that we forget how beautiful the simple things can actually be, and how powerful they also are. We underestimate the power of one thing executed 1,000 times in such a great way, that now it becomes a habit and is so natural that is absolutely 100% believable. Like what these actors did is absolutely believable in every moment of all 8 episodes throughout this mini series. And that makes this product even better, because in today's time, where everything is so pressurized and everything needs to be shot so in such a fast manner, because everybody wants to save time and money, of course, and everybody wants to be on the budget, and work with a certain reputation. So in today's time, where everything needs to be fast, to see a product that seems to be shot in such a handcrafted and such a and also with such a great pace and great rhythm, where you really felt like these people, they took their time to produce this, to really think about the scenes, the setup, how the actors were talking with each other, and how everything was kind of moving and around this principal little simple thing that is called like a burglary, right? There's one guy who's robbing another guy, and the consequences from that robbery, they were kind of laid out in 8 episodes. That's basically it. Boy meets girl, and out of that, amazing things will happen, like Alfred Hitchcock always used to say. So what can we learn? It is great to have somebody who performs an action, who shows me more than he needs to say. If that somebody is believable, then I follow his actions. I'm in the story. That's what the character needs to do. Sebastian Stan and Lily James, but all the other actors as well, they were performing clear and simple actions in their scenes. They were believable, they were authentic, they were spontaneous, they were real. It was magical to watch them because the chemistry was right, the acting was right, the dialogues were right, everything was moving forward. You always had the sense of a dynamic. It was, in very rare occasions, you had the feeling that it was kind of dragging or slow, or the pace was offbeat. It was always on point, like 99% of the times. Let's say 90% of the times. And so, to me, as an acting coach and as an actor as well, watching this, it was pure delight because it is simpler as we think sometimes. When we're making a movie or creating something like a scene, we show how the character acts in this very moment and how he reacts to a conflict. And then we have a certain opinion about that character. And we wish that character misery and death and bad things because he just did something very evil. But then the same character gets explored by a completely different character. And now it's not about the fear, it's not about the collision and the conflict anymore. It's how this character now behaves to the other character. And maybe the new character is in love with the character that we first hated. And now we get to know this character that we firstly kind of didn't really like, and we wished him maybe bad luck. Now we get to know this character from another point of view. And this other point of view confuses us because it shows us that he's also capable of, love, of caring moments, of beauty, and not just hate and fear and violence, right? So all of a sudden, this character gets re-evaluated by ourselves as the audience. And now all of a sudden there is another character stepping in and interacting with that character again. And again, we're exploring this character from a different angle. You get the point, right? This is very easy, very simple construction, but so effective. Just show me how the character is and how he reacts in certain situations. And now show me what the character can do in a completely different situation. And then leave it up to the audience to judge. It's not me, the actor, who needs to judge the character. I defend my character because I'm playing him as confidently and secure and honestly as I can in that imaginary circumstance. It's not about me judging whether this character is right or wrong, because then it becomes politics. It's not acting anymore. It's not show business anymore. It's not entertainment industry anymore. And it feels like why I'm so excited about the show is because it has brought a little bit of entertainment industry back into movie theaters, into home theaters. It has brought something back, like the old spirit of what Hollywood was all about, like creating that like vibrant, great, incredible, crazy content that is entertaining you and kind of sucking you into this imaginary world. Hello, Annie Boo. Hello, it's nice to see you again. Thank you for joining the show. So we don't have to come up with difficult concepts and some strange contortions about why we should love or hate a certain character, or why he should be demonized or idealized. I mean, we just truthfully and honestly play out what the character has to do in the scene. And it's up to the audience to recognize some patterns and then get a different angle, a different perspective on that character. And through that different perspective, we learn that life is not always black and white, that we even might like somebody who at first glance seems like a bad boy, like Tommy Lee, interpreted by Sebastian Stan and Pam and Tommy, right? And at first he seems to be the typical rock bad boy that is very, rich and behaving in an arrogant, stuck-up, violent way. And then in another scene, we see him as somebody who seems to be very caring and in love and very romantic and absolutely involved with a completely different vibe and completely in tune with somebody else. And that other person, the woman, Pamela Anderson, interpreted by Lily Adams, now reacts also in a different way, of course, than the guy that was mistreated by him previously. And that shows the manifoldness of an actor, of the character. That shows the beauty of different facets and colors, and we get the notion of how deep a certain character, even if on the surface we might kind of judge him as superficial, how deep a certain person can be in the end. And that discovery that life is not always black and white, and that good people can do sometimes horrible things, and horrible people sometimes can do great things, and that what we call a bad boy sometimes can behave like a stupid wonderful child, and then back again a beautiful lady can also behave like a witch and can be then very vulnerable in the next scene. It's all about that, about the simplicity of showing one character and the other character from different angles, from different points of views, from the other character's perspective. And so we understand more and more and more about how the protagonists like to react given certain circumstances to what is occurring in their storyline. So it's a very simple setup, but it works beautifully. First of all, because the actors are great, they're prepared in a magnificent way. You can tell that the directing is spot on, the rhythm, the pace works. But, again, coming back to what the instruments are, it's about being in that moment, truthfully adapting what the moment is all about and reacting to that and letting yourself go and not thinking, not judging yourself, and not censoring in terms of if this is too much or not. If it's vivid, if it's truthful, if it happens in a moment, then just go with it. And I think that this is like the first great lesson that we can learn from this miniseries, from these wonderful episodes. I highly recommend you to watch this show. So we got a character, and that character goes through the emotional storyline. And along that storyline, I always like to say a great storyline is like a river, like a monologue. It's like a river. And you have different islands placed on that river and different river banks also, of course, the right side of the river and the left side of the river. So different thoughts and views on that character. And sometimes we jump to the right side of the riverbank, and then we see this character from this angle and from this perspective, and we might deem it an asshole. And then we jump to the other side of the riverbank, and we look at this character again from a completely different viewpoint and from a different angle. And then we might judge this character as being a great, funny, and very caring person. And then it goes back and forth. And what happens then is that since nobody is telling us he is good or bad, or he's amazing, or he's just a mess, right? Since we're just living the experience, since we are in there because the writing is so good, we start to investigate for ourselves. Now it's up to us. And this is what the difference between lazy writing and great writing is all about. Lazy writing tells you what you should think and feel about the main character, what kind of tendency you should have in judging his actions, and where do these actions, from what kind of place they come from. And this should be your preconceived mask on through which you should operate when you're watching a certain product. This is lazy, bad writing. Great writing leaves it up to the audience to investigate what the character is about, because, like I always say, it's not about leaving answers. It's about making the audience wonder why a character does certain things. It's not about telling the audience why he does that. It's about making them wonder. Let them investigate for themselves. Let them be involved in the picture, because that's what great writing, storytelling does to the audience. They get involved. They want to know what's up next. They want to watch it till the end. They want to binge this. They want to stay in their seats till the end credit line is over, because maybe they're going to miss something, because they want to soak in all the information possible, because they were part of the story. This is what happens when your storyline is great. You can look at it from different angles, and the audience needs to investigate why the character is acting out in such a way. Let me know in the comment section if this so far makes any sense to you, because again, this is essential. It's a cornerstone of acting, to not judge your character, to defend your character, no holds barred, no matter what happens, and not to have a preconceived idea. You're not serving yourself in a way. You're serving the character. It's not about you. It's about the entertainment. It's about leaving all your opinions and all your currents behind and really kind of plunge in and transform yourself into this character. And whether that's a mean, a good character, that's all a point of view. It's not you who is judging, who's determining whether your character is good or not. That's up to the audience, because a bad character can have great and very caring sides, and again, like a great character, a good character can have some very evil and nefarious kind of tendencies as well. It's always yin and yang. It's just about life and the human condition. And when you get Sebastian Stan and Nick Offerman and Seth Rogen and Lily James, and I have to also mention Adam Ray as Jay Leno, when you get all these actors playing out in such a transformative way, whatever they were supposed to play, and the storyline kind of helps them along to kind of maneuver the current of this beautiful storyline river, then it's just a joy to watch. I always realize that a story is weak when I start to implement some own thoughts into what I'm seeing right now at the theater or at home. When I watch something and I start thinking, they could have done this in that way, or I wonder if this was the right solution. They maybe should have done this or that. Then I'm phasing out of the story already, because the story is not chaining me, it's not catching me. Here, I never had any background voices telling me, oh, this scene could have been done in this and that way, or the actor should have done this or that. Here it was just, part of the current. It was amazing to watch. And isn't that the beauty of acting? I think the powerful story behind Pam and Tommy and what happened around that stolen sex tape and what it kind of ignited, and also the drama that then kind of came over this very young family, this very young couple that just got married, because we all might deem it funny, but again, when you're exposed in such a way and people start to look at you as just a piece, just an object, just a piece of meat, right, from a videotape that was leaked online, then for you as well as a human being, that's a very humiliating moment. And I believe that Pamela Anderson went through a lot. And it's also pictured here. But of course, you can only touch upon certain aspects of the human condition when you're going through such a long phase where everybody's bombarding you with questions, and you get kind of everybody is following you wherever you go, because he wants to get a glimpse of you and take a picture and then smash it onto a cover of a Yellow Press magazine or anything like that. I don't think that's not something that should happen to us very often, because it's a very hard blow for the psyche. And we've seen some celebrities kind of crash, over scandals, over their kind of their private life, because they couldn't handle the pressure of the entertainment industry, of the business of performing, and also keeping their private life private and intimate and beautiful and alive, and not just exposed to the public and judged continuously by all media outlets. So I think that must have been a horror time for Pam and for Tommy and for all the friends of them when this whole thing kind of kicked off in the 90s. But to see that, how a drama can be funny, how a drama can be insightful, how a drama can be very touching and romantic, and in a way also wild, how all this can be, part of what we are seeing as an audience, and understanding that it's not about judging them. It's about kind of being amazed of how things sometimes can collide and come together, and how crazy and insane reality can sometimes be, and how life can change in in a matter of moments, of minutes, of hours and seconds, and how thoughts and emotions can revolve and evolve continuously, and how that can be very hard to kind of withstand, because it's such a impact. So when we are investigating as an audience what the characters are doing, and we try to understand where they're coming from, what kind of place they're coming from, what their motivations are, and we'll also more morally discuss their methods, or kind of review them with our own judges in our head while we're watching a great movie or a great series like that. What we do is actually we discuss our own beliefs. We kind of put our beliefs, our moral codes, our ethical codes to the test, and we compare them to what we're seeing. And when a product does that, then you have achieved greatness in storytelling and acting and performing, because again, it's about continuously searching for involving the audience into your story, into your creature, and making that creature as believable as possible through the acting performance. And when you're achieving that the audience asks more and more questions and starts to compare their own belief systems and tries to apply them to the belief systems of the protagonists and the other players in the movie, then it's because you just have done a very simple thing in an extraordinary way. Again, coming back to Bruce Lee, Bruce Lee once said, the extraordinary warrior is not a legendary soldier. It's an ordinary man that does one thing extraordinary well. So again, like, these actors are so extraordinary when it comes down to play the scene, when it comes down to show their feelings and to just be loose and safe and transform themselves completely, that once you are in there with them, you share their angles, their views, their perspective, because that's just the way they're soaking you into the story. And when you do that, you kind of find yourself, you catch yourself while you're viewing the different characters from their points of views. You're catching yourself asking the same questions. And when you're asking questions, coming back to what I said, like, you make the audience wonder why, and not giving them all the affirmations already. When you ask questions, it's all about you and how the picture behaves in relationship to you as the audience. And now you have a direct impact. Now the picture is part of your process. It's not just a flat image on the screen anymore. It's not two-dimensional CGI, whatever. I'm a great fan of CGI. Don't get me wrong. I'm just using this analogy to kind of show you, to demonstrate and illustrate even, further, like, what I mean by craftsmanship and by what I mean by involving the audience, because it's about what the content is giving us. And the content here is the human relation that we have, and just focusing to that and sticking to that and exploring that at its fullest and its complete boundaries. That's what the acting craft is so all about. And sometimes we forget that, because we get caught up with styles, we get caught up with our costume, we get caught up by distractions, we get caught up with our everyday things, and we forget the privilege that we have. Of course, it's easier when you have great colleagues, beautiful actors, phenomenal people around you, of course. But you have the responsibility of always delivering your best product. And sometimes we wing it because we found excuses and we use them as alibi, because actually we're just lazy. Here you can tell no actor was lazy. Every actor just gave his very best. They were very much involved with what's happening. So when you're doing that, when you're viewing the world that is happening, and when you're seeing the characters reacting to the circumstances that are imaginary through the viewpoint, through the perspective, through the angle of the certain characters, because they get explored by the other characters in the story and not just told. We get to see what is happening. It's not just telling, it's showing. And when you see that and you understand that, you start to investigate your own belief systems in the end. And then it's madness, because all of a sudden we ask ourselves very deep questions, not about the characters anymore, but about our own lives, about our own existence. Like, what should I do when something like that would happen to me? How should I behave? How should I react? What can I learn from that? And also the exploration of such a, of such a grand magnitude of emotions and fun and roller coaster actions, on a big as well as on a small scale, will always give you the idea that certain things in life, they don't have to be big. I don't need a great explosion. I don't always need a great effect. I can rely on the performance and what happens here, because the eyes are the greatest effect of them all. And here the eyes speak so loudly and so clearly. I can see eyes reacting and living and wanting something. All of the actors, they show us through their eyes what their souls are capable of and how they're reacting in this very moment and how they feel and what they really think about. It's really like getting soaked in all these different worlds. And that's what this series, and this is what makes this series so great and so enjoyable. And yes, it's about a rock and roll star. It's about a very famous actress. And Lily James, she had this incredible challenge. She had to play an actress. She had to play a real person that is living and still with us, while she was that other role. So it's kind of the role in the role, which of course is even more compelling and interesting and also difficult to interpret. And due to the prosthetics and the makeup and to the sheer perfection of all the departments, you forget immediately after a couple of seconds that Lily James is Lily James. You just assume that's Pamela Anderson because she looks just like her. And even though Sebastian Stan maybe in height is not completely matching Tommy Lee, even there you get soaked in immediately, and you absolutely you believe that's Tommy. So simple things, simple reactions, simple relationships, but made with a lot of contrast, a lot of sharpness, really working on the details and doing them back and forth and doing them back and forth so many times till they become a habit. And then it's so natural that nobody will actually believe that you are acting at all. Remembering the quote, when God does everything in the right way, you won't even notice that he has done something. What is so fascinating about this product is that even if the story revolves around a homemade tape that shows a lot of intimacy between two people, a couple, boy and girl, and so even though of course it's very explicit, it always feels natural. Sometimes when I watch actors or even myself, like when I have to get undressed in front of the camera, naturally you get stiff. It's kind of strange. It's still a weird kind of feeling to expose yourself in front of so many people, and then also knowing that some others might see this, right? Not only the guys and the girls on set. So sometimes it is weird, even though you're a pro. It might look like a bit cringy. It might look like a bit stiff once in a while, right? You might catch that only with a few details here and there, but still, of our body, our reaction is of course protection and not demonstration. But here again, with these two actors, Lily James and Sebastian Stan, I feel they are all about demonstration. I feel like they were completely trusting each other. I feel like they were in tune with their roles. I feel like they were directed in such a great way, in such a simple way also. Because even though their moves were crazy and insane at times and a bit oversketched, it's part of the context that was set so magnificently that you believe the actions and you don't question them, and you absolutely your roster is set just from the beginning on, so you don't question the context anymore. So it's they can act freely, and they do it. And so there's this beautiful interaction between the directing part of the series and also the executing part of the series. Both are kind of interacting with each other flawlessly, very smoothly, elegantly, even though the setup is crazy. And sometimes they walk through very explicit sets while other actions are performed in the background. And here again, it feels so embedded. It feels so organic. It doesn't feel artificial or set up or cringy in any ways. Again, here, actors, I feel like they had the liberty to express, to demonstrate, to show they weren't afraid at all. They were completely at ease. And that makes it even scarier. And it makes me also hope for the future, because from all these lessons that we can learn from Pam and Tommy, it shows us that great entertainment. I won't say it's cheap entertainment, because it's not easy to produce a series like that. Besides the budget for these great actors, there were a lot of extras, a lot of prosthetics, a lot of makeups, a lot of different costumes going on. So it was surely like an expensive set, expensive production, but you don't quite see it in ways that it kind of it just happens. It's the world. It's pictured, it's embedded, it's embroidered perfectly, right? So all the money was spent in the right way. It never feels too much. It has all the right dimension, the right pace, the right dynamics. This is what great acting and simple storytelling that is done in an effective and coherent and cohesive way can do to the audience and to the product. So I have hope for future products that they might bring back stories like that at first glance it might seem like a very banal story. Pam and Tommy, whoever is a bit more involved in the stories from the 90s and Baywatch and all these great series, and knows Pamela Anderson in the background a little bit, knows pretty much what the story is about. I never would have thought that it could be so intrinsic and so personal and so insightful and so deep, where everybody had the opportunity to play his thing and to have his own space. And I have also to say, like, Seth Rogen was quite surprising alongside Nick Offerman, who's a great actor. They were just creating that counterbalance, that darkness that was necessary to make this whole setup believable, but at the same time, also a very humoristic approach that felt always kind of underlying and not too much, and emphasizing without accenturizing comedy too much. Of course, there were some moments in the series where I thought, okay, that could have been solved with less irony or less humor and a bit more realistically, but it's just, some tats here and there. Overall, it starts funny, it ends up in a drama, like a drama should always do. It gives full accountability to all the characters. I feel they all have been explored quite well. And even though I've heard some critics saying that the character of Pamela Anderson is kind of falling a bit short, I don't actually think so. I think that was intentional. We know what Tommy is about. Back then, I don't think that even Pamela Anderson knew what she was about. She was such a huge star. Things were happening so fast. The press, the media, they were all over her. The pressure was so high. She was producing other movies. She thought she would have this great breakthrough. I mean, I can totally understand that somebody loses his compass for a while or doesn't even know what he is all about, and just functioning on such a high level can be very confusing. And I think Lily James did a great job, marvelous job in interpreting exactly that. So she was adding exactly the spice and the flavor that was necessary to make this whole thing like homogeneous. And Sebastian Stan as Tommy Lee had the part of the gregarious, flamboyant, insane, very crazy, bad boy rock star that had a very tender heart, a very soft core, and was explored in so many different ways from so many different angles. You don't have to say it. You just have to show it. Just explore the character, the main characters, the protagonists through different viewpoints, and let them all understand what implications the single actions of all the characters interfering with the protagonists have on the story. Just let the audience understand like what the outcome is, and all of a sudden they will change the riverbank, right? They will change their favors, and they will kind of overthink and rethink what they just thought a couple of minutes ago about this or the other character and what should happen to them. So it's just a beautiful, very involving, very, very paceful, great delivery by all actors involved in this project. I was really appreciating watching this because it kind of took me back to my Actors Academy, to when I started studying acting on a professional level, when we started to improvise, when we started to establish relationship and working on those simple things. And it felt like this is what the craft should be more about. It's all about the consistency and the fundamental beliefs all the characters have, and how they clash against the belief systems of the other characters involved in the movie, and how consistent all these characters were on following and doubling down on their path, on their beliefs, on what they wanted to achieve in the storyline. That was so exciting and so great to watch, because you were just taking part of it, and all of a sudden you wished everybody good luck in achieving whatever they wanted to achieve, even though that was kind of cross secting the mission of the protagonist that you should actually kind of wow for. So it's about the human condition. It's about exploring human stories, very simple, very easy to grasp tendencies and moral attitudes, and what certain events can do to our lives, and how they change the way we behave and how we react to our environment, and subsequently how our behavior and our human condition changes in the process, and how that makes us more likable or less likable to the audience, and also to let them figure out why we're doing things in such a way, and what our motivations are. So clear, beautiful, free and loose actions, and the freedom of expressing them, understandable different angles and viewpoints of the characters, and how they are clashing with the initial condition of our protagonists, understanding where all the characters are coming from and rooting for them. Nonetheless, they might appear to do very questionable things, but since the context of the story of the world is so crazy and out of the norm, you kind of understand that there are certain rules that won't be applicable into the normal world that we are living. And so we admire these people fighting with these rules, these unspoken laws, and we understand their belief systems. And of course, we question our own as well, and we compare them to the ones that we're seeing right now, to the protagonists and how they interact. And sometimes we learn from that, we benefit from that, because maybe there's something that we can adopt for ourselves. Maybe there's some power, some inspiration that we can leach out of the information that we just perceived. Maybe there is something that we can implement for our own purposes, artistic purposes and behaviors. And that again is the beauty of culture, because from culture there is a never-ending process where you can add and subtract, add and subtract, add and subtract constantly, and it will never fall apart, because you are not superimposing your ratio, your mentality, your narcissism, your political agendas, or your styles and current modern currents that you're following. You are following the craft, the essence, the core. So you're leaving that all behind, because that's just a fashion that you want to entertain for private purposes, because that's the game we're all playing out. But when it comes down to the character, it's all about being immersed. And so not judging that character and being completely transformed and absorbed by that character makes it easier for the audience to understand. And that is the culture, because now I can add something from my own belief system and subtract it if I need it. I can learn from it, or I can kind of push it away from me and brush it off because I don't want to be involved with it. But as the audience, I have the opportunity to judge for myself. There is no superimposed judgment that I have to follow that is giving me. So overall, this is what acting is all about. This is what great performances are all about. And on all levels, through all the 8 episodes, I just seen people enjoying themselves, not judging, just playing and being. And by exploring them through the different characters, understanding the world, and through the context, understanding why they react in the way that they react. So in the end, it's about the game that we're playing, and I want you to really believe in that game and to play it, and sometimes to risk something and to go where no one has gone before, because it's about the exploration. If you don't do that, if you don't travel to new places, if you don't change a bit while you're traveling, you're on the wrong travel. You're not traveling right. You must look out for the adventure as a creator, as a creative mind, as somebody who has the spirit to change something. Because again, it's about adding something to the culture, and you can only do that by experiencing something new. If you always stay in your comfort zone, then you can't really add something, right? It's just your opinion that you can add, and that is based on emotion and the biases of your tendencies, of your everyday quarrels, and that is so influenced by so many different currents and fashions that it's not even your own opinion anymore. It's art isn't about opinion, it's about showing something magnificent and believing in that culture. And when you see products like that, you feel inspired to add something back to the culture, to do a great product as well, to run a show for yourself, to produce something like that, to record yourself, and to put yourself into the mood of being able to open up without judgment to a new character and to explore their world under the imaginary circumstances, and to let this world come alive, because that culture is alive. It's not a judgment, it's not a projection, it's something that's alive, that's true and vivid and genuine. So we can all share it, and in the process it becomes greater and bigger. And speaking of process and getting bigger, and coming full circle with this live chat today, so also thanking you for having stick with us till the end. When we went to LA to explore what LA right now is all about, what industry is all about after the crisis hit, and also coming full circle with what we've seen before, this global pandemic broke out, and we now are getting back to normality and trying to understand and figure out what our position is. We're coming full circle because we understand that entertainment can be poor or can be very rich based on how much we want to get involved with it, without getting distracted, without judging, without having any sort of opinion, without politics, without any differentiation. Because for the audience, that's not important. For the audience, it's just important to be soaked in and escape a little bit, and getting the courage of thinking about things they would never think about, like in real life. This is our mission. That's what we're here for. And this is what the COACHMC studio is also standing for. So coming back from LA, we thought we have to do something. We have to show more. And we wanted to start with this acting breakdown and how important this series can be. So I highly, of course, encourage you to kind of watch Pam and Tommy and learn from and extract as much as you can. But also a project that we started a couple of years ago, interviewing creators, interviewing great entertainers, people from the entertainment industry, actors, coaches. What we do on Talks on Acting, by the way, check out our show, Talks on Acting, our last show with my man, Tony DeLerme from Miami Beach. But that's our passion, ultimately, to deliver you those instruments. So coming up, there will be some great movies here on this channel talking about this endeavor, our quest of exploring ever better performances and giving you the tools, always the most remarkable tools also to perform on an extraordinary level, drained by all these informations, by all these experiences, and wrapped up in this beautiful package that we call the COACHMC Studio. So check out our future videos, subscribe. Guys, subscribe to the channel if you haven't so far. That helps us tremendously. It gives us the appreciation from you guys, and also shows the algorithm what's important to you. And activate the bell so you don't miss out on any video. You don't have to search for it because sometimes it doesn't just pop up even if you're subscribed. So activate the bell so to keep up with the latest news, the latest videos, the latest experiences that we're sharing also on Instagram. It's the COACHMC. Go there and join me also, because we have a lot of great adventures over there as well as some art projects. So it's a nice little profile that needs your attention. Leave a comment in the comment section below what you thought of this, what you think of the series. Let me know if you have watched it, and if you did, and whatever opinion you have, let me know. Email me through my website. It's the coachmc.studio if you want to arrange a private meeting with me online, 30 minutes free, just exploring what we can do for each other. And maybe there's a great project coming up, like a self-tape, a casting call, your portfolio that needs a bit of a refreshment, a great monologue that you guys want to record, and maybe we're the right match so we can work together and explore incredible things all together and have so much fun in the process. And also trying also to deliver the latest and the best tools that I've personally gathered throughout 30 plus years of acting experience and being on set every day of my life and running this beautiful YouTube channel for you guys. So I guess that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for commenting in the comment section. Subscribe to the channel. Don't forget that, and leave us a like, right? So the algorithm knows that you like this program and kind of upvotes it and shows it to other content creators out there. Share it also with your creative community if you thought that this content had any value. And of course, Rosita Macarons, thanks a lot to you guys for sticking with us so long. And see you next time with the next video. And now you're ready to perform.